talking to myself again. But it's the only...
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, and it's the Retro Show tonight with George, with Mitch, with Steve Hasty. Penman's having a night off and he's probably on the drink again, is he, Mitch?
No, he's watching his son play football.
That's right. So he's not on the drink. He's had enough of that with you last week. We've got a great stand-in though, good friend of all of ours, Steve Wilkinson. Good evening, Steve.
Hi, Steve. Hi, lads.
Great to have you on, mate. Great to have you on. Just tell us a little bit of history about you know, how long have you supported Newcastle?
Right. Well, I'm not quite as far back as George, but 1962 was my first game. I mean, as you know, I'm in a wheelchair now, and I had a lot of problems in my early life in hospital, a lot up till the age of 8. And so after that, my dad took us. He worked the post office. He was working most Saturdays, but my first game was against Scunthorpe on March the 17th, 1962. George might remember the score. George, do you remember the score of that game?
What's that? Sorry.
March the 17th, 1962. Scunthorpe at home.
And that was your first. No. And that was your first game.
First game, yeah. We won 2-1 anyway, and Alan Suddick scored, I think. Anyway, so I've been going since then. I got the pleasure of seeing us win the Fairs Cup, and I went to all the games that year, and also to Wembley in '74, wasn't it? We went to Wembley. Forget about that one.
Yeah, '74.
The League Cup in '76 when we scored a goal. The only 2 times we've scored a goal in all our times in a proper match at Wembley. My next sort of major activity was I got involved with the Newcastle Supporters Association right at the beginning, after the Bastia debacle in losing that game, and then Richard Dennis getting the sack. And I got involved initially with Malcolm Dix and Alan Rooney and John Woff and Peter Ratcliffe and them. And we also built the Gallagher Club, which is obviously now the Irish Centre. It was an old warehouse, if anybody remembers that far back, and we wanted to try and create a social club for fans. The big problem was the only beer we could get in was Vokes, and you can imagine how well Vokes went down in Newcastle. So that obviously it went a few years, and I was secretary of the club, and I spent most of my nights there. We used to get some canny turns on, and but it was mainly a bus drivers horn, you know, after, because obviously the Gallagher bus station was there. So I went through all the years. I moved down to Midlands and I worked in Coventry for nearly 10 years. I used to come up to matches. This is going back to early 90s. So I went to the Keegan time. Used to come up with the Midland supporters. And you know, it was great times. Then obviously we nearly won the league, as we know. And what we're going to talk about tonight is Pipness. And then, you know, since then I've carried on going. The end of the 90s, I was one of the founders of Newcastle Disabled Supporters Group, which I'm not involved now, other than being a member, but it's gone from strength to strength with Steve Miller, Ros Miller. And that was when I first met Steve, was the early 2001, when I was elected to the Fans Liaison Committee as the disabled representative. And it was a bit of an abortion, wasn't it, Steve? We didn't last very long. I think it was Russell Cushion.
It reminds us of a government running a pandemic, to be honest. All of that money spent on things that could have been used elsewhere.
And then obviously going on the 2010 times when I met some of you lads with the supporters, what was it, consortium? What was it, NUFC, wasn't it, in those days?
Yeah.
And we did that great song at the Grays Monument. You might remember when we sang our song, Old Lads. I've written a few more verses since then, actually, because we've had a few more disasters since then. So never been recorded yet, though. And then we come on to the present day, and obviously I was obviously over the moon like everybody about the takeover, and like you lads, I remain optimistic that it'll go through, and I've been telling everybody even since it was first announced that it was off, that it was still on. Never over until it's over. And Ashley wants to go, we know that, and they want to buy, and if we can get sorted out the Premier League, which everything is against them, they're just shooting themselves in the foot. They cock up everything, you know, and I'm optimistic. The PPV is a classic example of pay-per-view. You know, they just haven't got a clue how to do things. And I'm seeing what you already know, you guys. And so I'm optimistic that it'll happen. And hopefully by the end of the season, I think as bad as things are now, and it's dreadful to watch the matches, as you know. I think we'll be all right this season. We'll muddle through, and hopefully by next season we've got a new owners and new manager and some new players. That's
You're saying what all of us know, but it's nice for other people who watch the show to hear another person come on and say exactly what we're saying without prompting, mate. So that's good. Tom Lynch remembers the song. He says, "Are you the lad who had an NUFC song out some years ago on the pitch at St James's?" What was the song, Steve?
No, that wasn't on the pitch. There was a lad that used to sing on the pitch. I forget what it was. So was it?
Wasn't Graham Danby that he's thinking of? Is it? He's not got you confused for an opera singer.
Right.
Well,
Maybe
Steve sang at the monument when we had the first NUFC protest around the monument, and that was before the Everton game on Sunday.
Right.
And Steve and his band came along, and they did a couple of numbers. Isn't that right, Steve?
Well, we had a song called "Oh Lads." It was the guy George Milburn and John Homer were the two guys, and I met George, and he had this song that he hadn't got any verses for it. He wanted to make it a song about support Newcastle, and I wrote 4 verses, and we got it recorded. They recorded it. We played it in Sam Jack's the first time, and then with you, Steve, we got it live at the bloody abortion. It's actually on YouTube. The video of it is on YouTube, and the singer's pretty crap. Like, that's me. We had the backing. I think the backing music was a kazoo.
Well, try watching us sing on the Friday night show for children in need. You know, you got nothing to worry about, mate. Simon Cowell will not be ringing any of us, I don't think.
I'll live with an expert kazoo player. If you need a kazoo player, I'll live with.
Very good.
I'm getting 4 more verses. It's happened to it for over 10 years now, I suppose. So I've written 4 more verses in the last, which hasn't been recorded yet, but maybe we'll get the lads round and record those verses. It would nice.
Okay, Steve. Yeah, of course, Steve. As always, we allow our guests to speak first about the on the Retro Show about the club that we're talking about tonight. We're looking at Manchester United. Already had a few comments in from people. Keith Roll, I'll read his out. He's got his favourite Newcastle Man United matches down as Newcastle 3, Man United 0, Ferguson and Shearer 2 in 1999-2000. The 7-goal thriller 4-3 with Robert, Lee, Dabizas and Brown own goal in 2000-2001. So lots of memories. Give us your first one then, Steve, of games against Manchester United.
Well, the first one that I can remember, and I can't remember too much about it, was we actually beat them 5-1. George might remember this, 1970. Pop Robson got a hat-trick when Davies scored a hat-trick. I cannot remember too much about it because I was still a youngster, but I remember, the fact you beat Man United 5-1, and they just won the European Cup the previous season, so that it was the top-notch boys of Man United, and to beat them 5-1, a couple of years later, we'd won the Fairs Cup, and so we were probably our strongest of that, and anytime you beat Man United, for me is great, and over the years. Sadly, I've had some hammerings, as we all have with them, and some of the other stories are related to hammerings. I was looking at the record, and we've got a disastrous record against Man United. We've lost twice as many games as we've won, and it's an awful record that we've got against them. But they're the team you want to beat, and nothing better than I don't like the fans. They're arrogant. The fans, I think they always. And the thing that always annoys me is when people call them United. When you United, and I mean, it must grate on you the same as me that we are United. We are the only one United Newcastle, and that people refer to them as United, and you have to say which one do you mean, and it annoys you. And the arrogance of the fans just irritates me. And I would put the hose pipes on the buggers when they're up in the roof of the Leazer's End, and when they start their singing and stuff. And but there's been some good games. Obviously, the 5-0s and the other ones are great. And that one, that game that I'm referring to, 1970, I can't quite remember, but Willie McFall got injured in it, if I remember rightly. And George might remember whether I think Moncur went in goal near the end.
Yeah.
George, I
think you're right. But
say Pop Robson got a hat-trick, 2 penalties. You know, who cares where they're going from? We're living off penalties at the minute. That's a cracking picture of the old stand, though. That was the great days when we had. I used to go more on the popular side, you know, open stand side.
That's George Best there and Dennis Law in shot, John Tudor, I think, as well, and Willie McFall. But very rare to find photographs of Newcastle Man United back in the 70s, but I did dig that one out. And what game it is, I don't know. George Best looks a bit portly there as well, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't look like
his shirt's a bit snug.
Yeah,
definitely.
He didn't play in that game in the 71. They were starting to get old in that. In fact, they got relegated a few years later. They got relegated in 74. People might not remember that. Man United went down for a season. But they let all the players get old, you know. So that game, there was Crowden was playing, Nobby Stiles, Bobby Charlton scored their goal. There was a guy playing for them called Alan Gowland, which obviously will be one of the ones we'll talk about playing for both clubs later on. He played that game for Man United. But my hero was Win Davies in those days, and he got one of the goals. So he was my hero at that time.
Great stuff, Steve. George, your first memories then of Newcastle against Manchester United?
Can I cheat and use the photograph that I give you, Steve, first?
Do you want me to put that up now?
Yeah, it's Manchester United related. That's the 1956 Northumberland boys playing at Croft Park at Blythe, and we're wearing the Blythe shirts. And a man called Daddy Dawson, who was a top head teacher in Blythe, used to run the county then. And he used to G everybody up before this particular game against Yorkshire, because Yorkshire were the top county in the country. 5 of the Yorkshire lads played for England. He came into the dressing room and said, Manchester United's well represented here, lads, so give yourself a chance, you know, have a good game, because it's the even that assistant manager here, Murphy, was there from Old Trafford. Nobody knew who they were particularly looking at, but I was pegging next to the lad in this picture who was in the suit at the end there, at the right-hand side, Tommy Spratt. And he went on, this is taken at half-time, and as he was going out, Daddy Dawson said to Tommy, yeah, they're talking to your dad all right, Tommy, so have a good game, son, because they're talking to your dad already. When we came back on at half-time, he came to Tommy and said, your dad signed the papers, you cannot play the second half, so you've got to stay off. So that's why he's in a suit. And the bloke that replaced him was a Newcastle lad called Ian Johnson, who's next to Seth Irwin in the back row there. The left, that's Seth Irwin. And next to him's Ian Johnson from Newcastle. And he took Tommy Spratt's place. And off he went to sign for Manchester United. And we heard about 2 or 3 weeks later, he played in a reserve game and they beat somebody 8-0. And Tommy Spratt scored 6 of the goals. 6 of the goals. You know, this is a 15 and a half, 16-year-old laddie. And of course, everybody thought, well, that's it. He's made. You know what? They never signed him. He had a great football career, but with Bradford Park Avenue, not with Manchester United. And I think it may be he went at the wrong time because there was too many Busby babes. But that was the Manchester link with that photograph. Others in the pictures of note. In the middle is sitting down is David Lackenby from Wallsend. He played for the Mackhams, ended up got a couple of games in the first team. Stubby played for the Mackhams with Don Revy. Next to the right of the goalkeeper is Jimmy Richardson. Now, his nickname where you played then was Chinky. You wouldn't dare give somebody a nickname Chinky nowadays, but he was Chinky Richardson to all of us. He ended up playing for Sheffield Wednesday. Good group of lads. And the other reason I wanted to use this is you remember Mick, your guest on Friday, talking about going to places in minibuses and meeting the same lads on the minibus like Gaza and Spraggan and him, and all going to Ipswich, all going to Middlesbrough and all the rest of it. Well, it was the same with those lads. You know, nearly half those lads went to Burnley when I went to Burnley. And some of them went to Sheffield, some of them went to Ipswich, but there were all the time there were people going around, just as Mick said. Mick's talking about that last week, give me the memory to think about that. And I knew I had that photo somewhere, so I took it out anyway. But at least it is Manchester United related. But Tommy Spratt played nearly 400 matches for Bradford Park Avenue, but not a single one for Manchester United, even though they took him off at half time and took him away. So it's Manchester United related anyway.
Great story.
Sorry?
Great story, George.
Well, it just ties things together very personally, and as I say, Daddy Dawson used to tell everyone who was in the crowd. He used to say, so-and-so's here, lad, so-and-so's here, and other things to G up. Sometimes, mind, he used to frighten the life out of her as well, because a number of us went to play for the north of England against the south of Scotland at Easter Road in Edinburgh, New Year's Day. And fantastic crowd because they just had the Easter Road derby with Hearts. And we were supposed to be playing the south of Scotland. And Daddy Dawson came in looking all worried. He says, they've pulled a flanker on me. And Dick Carruthers says, well, do you mean that? He says, well, it's not the south of Scotland. It's the bloody whole Scottish team that they're going to, they've got the whole Scottish team. They're going to try and tear it apart, make a spectacle of it. And in fact, we didn't do too badly considering it was a Scottish game. We only lost 3-1, and torn apart on the right-hand side of the field. The left back had a hell of a time. That was Chinky Richardson by a little ginger-headed lad called Billy Bremner. Would you believe? Well, never mind. Anyway, my first game I want to come to, and I've deliberately avoided the 5-1 that we all know about and we're all love it and all the rest of it. And it's 1960s, and it's no, it's not. That's the second one I was going to do. I was going to do an earlier one than that. 56, I think it was. Yeah, 56. And I chose 56 because it's Busby Babes. You can't mention Manchester United, in my view, without talking at least about the Busby Babes. And the April 56 game was a fantastic football game, but it was goalless. But it was still a fantastic game because it was the Busby Babes versus virtually our cup final team. We were Simpson and Schooler and Stokoe, etc., etc. Lackenby and Batty came in, the two fullbacks, because the two fullbacks were injured. But otherwise, it was the cup final team. Man of the match for Manchester United was my favourite player ever, and it's a pity we lost him, Duncan Edwards. What a great guy. Huge in every sense of the word, a big athlete, strong, fast, good in the air. Everything about Duncan Edwards was first class. And he was their man of the match. And for us, the man of the match was, guess who? Jackie Milburn at outside right. He ran Roger Byrne at the left full back ragged that afternoon. More by good luck than good management that they didn't get a goal. But although it was 0-0, it was an excellent game of football. And of course, Busby was their manager, and Stan Seymour was our manager at that time. But as I say, 37,500 at the game. But it was a game to remember. Now, as I've said to you more than once, my family used to pick games to go to, and they were desperate to see the Busby Babes. Well, in 56, I'd already started training at St James's Park with Alec Tate, and he managed to get tickets for all to go into the paddock in front of the old stand. And so it was a treat for the family. What a really good day. It was me, my dad, grandpa, and Uncle Tom. The four of us went together. It was absolutely great. And a match, although it was 0-0, everybody loved the football. It was end to end. It was really exciting.
I've got to ask you, George, because you mentioned him. What was it like to see this man play, Jackie Milburn?
Oh, incredible. I mean, I don't think people appreciate, A, what a brilliant footballer, but B, what a lovely man he was. I mean, I think I said to you some time ago, I had the privilege of playing in the A team when Jackie Milburn was looking after it. What a lovely man he was. I mean, when Alec Tate said to me, you've got to go down to North Road Wallsend to play for the A team. I thought, oh, great, that's smashing. You know, I'm a 15-year-old kid, so off I go and playing with professionals, some of the senior professionals. Walked into the dressing room at North Road, and this lovely tall guy, pink-faced, very fresh-faced guy said, "Hello, George, they tell me you play left back." And it was bloody Jackie Milburn. I could hardly speak for half an hour, never mind run, never mind play. But apart from that, superb athlete, very fast, one of the hardest shots I've ever seen. People misguidedly thought he couldn't head the ball, and that was to the cost of Manchester City in the cup final because they left him alone. They all went to Mark Keeble, and they left Jackie Milburn alone, and because he headed one in the back of the net early doors, which got off to a flying start. But yes, a real thrill to see somebody like Jackie Milburn. Sad thing for me is like a lot of Northern players, particularly centre forwards and others, didn't get the England recognition he should have done. You know, there was always a reason for not having him. Like Brian Clough never got the recognition, and nobody's going to persuade me that that's nothing to do with that, with it being from the north. I'm certain it was, but he was such a lovely, lovely man, and his pace. An example of his pace. Somebody at Newcastle in those days, that one of the trainers had something to do with Powder Hall handicaps, and he used to persuade some of the faster players to go and run in the handicap. Well, Jackie Milburn twice won the 100 yards Powder Hall handicap, and there was a lot of money in it in those days. In fact, a lad from Blythe called, well, it depends which name he used. Sometimes he was McNeil, sometimes he was Blackburn. He used to run, and people say that he did 9.9 for 100 meters years before the amateurs did. Years before, and Jackie Milburn won that twice. Apart from being a brilliant footballer, so he was a proper athlete, a good footballer, and a lovely man. You know, I don't think I've met anybody with at such a high level, was so caring and thoughtful, and got such a demeanour. They don't make them like that now. And of course, the interesting thing for me is once I started to play regularly, and something else that Mick said last week about players not getting a game. You see, when the era I'm talking about, there was the first team, there was the Central League team, there was the A team in the Northern Alliance, there was the B team in the Northern Combination, there was the Ns in the Northern Intermediate League, and there was the juniors in the Newcastle District Junior League. So if you were there, you had to be had to be unlucky not to get a game. And when players were coming back from injury, they used to stick them in the A team and the B team. Like my school teacher, Alec Tate, odd times when he'd been injured, I'd find myself on a Saturday afternoon in the A team or the B team in the combination, and Alec would be playing in the same team as me, just to give him a run out so he was getting prepared. So what Mick said last week rung a bell with me is nowadays they haven't got the teams to put all these kids in. They're all sitting around for 2 or 3 months not kicking the ball, which is ridiculous. Ridiculous. But go on.
No, good stuff. It's what people tune in for. Mitch, your first memory of Manchester United against Newcastle?
Well, following on from what my dad said, one of my first memories of seeing Man United is actually going to Roker Park to watch them. I think my dad, my granddad, and maybe even Uncle Jim, going along together, because it was like, well, who's playing this weekend? I don't know whether we had a. I forget why we weren't going to see us, but Man United were playing at Sunderland. All right, now let's go and watch Man United, and that must have been sort of late 70s, early 80s.
Yes, it was.
I mean, the first game for us against Man United that I really remember is the 3-2 cup game in the 80s where we lost, and it was on match of the day. I remember going up to the ground with the lads to queue for what seemed like hours to make sure we got in the Gallagher end. It was great atmosphere, and we gave them a really good game, and we felt actually disappointed to lose. But it's that classic thing about when they talk about expectations in Newcastle fans. We just want that puncher's chance. We want to walk away proud of our team. And that day, for all we lost, it was like a moral victory. We walk away proud. We'd bloodied their nose. We'd give them a game. They didn't come here and we rolled over. We gave them a fight. And so when people talk about what we want as fans, that's what we want. You know, that game is certainly cemented and is my first proper memory of watching Man United at St James's Park.
Okay, Steve, what about you? Your first memories of Newcastle United against Manchester United?
73. Played in 73. By then, Charlton had gone. Law had gone. There was only Best left in the team, and I think it was the last time that Best played at St James's, actually. We beat them 3-2. Remember it? 2 goals by Tommy Cassidy made it 2-2. I remember that. And then it was a strange game because it was one of those games you went into not expecting to win because Malcolm was injured. Malcolm McDonald was injured. He wasn't playing. And George Hope was in instead of him. And I think Malcolm mentioned George on one of his shows last week, the week before, when he was describing one of the goals that had been scored in a particular game. And George actually scored the winner in that game to make it 3-2. And, you know, like I said, it was one of those games you didn't expect to win, with Malcolm not being leading the front line. But I think that the man, Steve W's right. The Man United team at that time was on the wane and did get relegated in 74. That might have been the season. That might have been the 73-74 season. I'm not too sure. But I think they had the like the George Graham playing for them, and I think Lou Macari hadn't been there very long. I think both of them scored in that game, to tell you the truth. But yeah, that was my first one, 73. I think we went in 74. Was it? No, I think we'd been there in 72 after the Hereford game and beaten them at Old Trafford. But the first game I can recall is the 73 game at home.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the ground. I mean, they often call Old Trafford the theatre of dreams. For me, it's been the theatre of nightmares, apart from FA Cup semi-finals. But it's an impressive stadium for me. But for me, Steve, it tends to lack the atmosphere maybe like an Anfield does when you go to it. And I don't know whether that comes. I don't know whether that comes down.
There.
Yeah, I'm just saying with the FA Cup semi-finals are a bit different because we've had a good run there, Steve. But as a visiting fan, I don't know whether it's because I don't know. There's just not, the atmosphere is not the same. I get a good buzz out of going to Anfield when I'm an away fan. I don't know whether it's because of the whole "you'll never walk alone" thing. The hairs go up in the back of your neck, but it's one of those grounds that doesn't do it for me. I don't know if that makes sense, Steve.
Which Steve?
You, Steve Wilkinson. Yeah, back to you, Steve.
I can comment on it from a disabled supporter's point of view because it's pretty hard for the fact that it's 75,000. They used to have when the Taylor report came out, you were supposed to have a percentage of the ground which was for disabled wheelchair users like myself. And at Newcastle, we worked with the club at Newcastle with Nudzer around about 2000 when the development was happening in Millburn, particularly. And we got pretty close to the percentage. Man United were nowhere near that. And it's only at recent times where they've probably gone to getting the right number in. They were, for a 75,000 ground, they probably had about 100 spaces for wheelchair users, which was hopeless, really. The memory I've got talking about atmosphere there, though, was the second semi-final, I think it was, when we played Sheffield United. Seeing that new stand bouncing up and down, you could actually see the stand.
Yeah.
It was vibrating in the middle. We thought the bugger's going to come down, and what an atmosphere that was. Because I was up near the Sheffield United fans, with it being the wheelchair section was all merged together, so I was up there so I could see from the other side of the pitch. It was an amazing sight. But I've had
George?
I've had some awful times
Yes.
there. You know, again going back to related to my disability in 19. Let me just check when it was. 1984. We went down there and we were standing in those days. I used to stand behind the barriers at matches. As I say, at Newcastle, I was on the popular side or in the Gallagher corner. And I was behind the goal at Man United. And the crowd just came in at the last minute like it does. And they left the paddock closed on the side there where they could have let the overspill go to. And they were actually getting chocker in there. So I lost my sticks. I used to park my sticks on the ground and I couldn't control myself. So I made my way on the people's backs to the fence at the side, went down the front, saw the ambulance guy that was there. And I says, you know, I'm struggling here. I cannot stay. So they got up and let me on the touchline. And I watched it from the touch on the edge of the pitch behind the goal, sitting on one of the stools with the ambulance man, you know, and unfortunately we got beat 5-0. So the coppers were standing up every few minutes when goals were going in, most of them in the second half. So it was an awful atmosphere, but it was a memorable time there in that ground. You know, and obviously when you're getting hammered, the noise is too good the wrong way, you know, loud, but not in our favour. So it's a horrible place when you're getting beat.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Big thanks to our sponsors, newworkwear.com, specialists in the supply and branding of clothing for the workplace. There's George trying to get in the helmet there. You can see him. And also big thanks to John at qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables, and also the maker of our T-shirts. NewcastleLegends.com is where you can order them. We've also got the calendars, which are on sale now for the food bank. We've already sold a couple of them, so that's good stuff. All money going towards the food bank of them. And we've also got our face masks also available on there. And the T-shirt, the latest T-shirt, which is up for grabs for the food bank, this will be drawn on Monday night, is a Liam Kennedy special, Join the Dots T-shirt. It does have Join the Dots on the back as well. So that is up to £70, I think, at the moment, which is great stuff. So keep that coming in. If you go onto my Twitter account at Steve Wraith and just bid underneath, we'll draw that on Monday night on Ladies' Night. George, your memories of Old Trafford as a ground?
Well, the tend to be memories of cup semi-finals rather than of league matches. I don't think I've actually been to an away match at Old Trafford. But it is an impressive stadium. But you need an enthusiastic crowd like ours in it to make it sing. It's quite flat sometimes when you see, even on the telly, when you see Manchester United fans, it's quite a flat atmosphere. But the couple of times I've been there with us, it's been our lads that have made a jump. There's no doubt about that. So, yes, impressive venue. There's no doubt about that. But when it was that match where the place was jumping up and down, I bet there was one or two safety engineers doing some rapid calculations to see if it could be needed after the weekend, because it really did rock. There's no doubt about that. But impressive stadium, but it needs a proper crowd, and I don't think they have a proper crowd because the fan base is so widespread, in my opinion. You know, there's the old cliches about them having prawn sandwiches and all that sort of thing. I don't think that's far wrong, to be perfectly honest.
No, me neither. Mitch, have you got any stories about trips to Manchester United's ground? You know, any thoughts on it? Do you agree with me that it's a little bit of a soulless place compared to others?
But it's funny, I got talking to a guy called John Henry, who's a patient of mine out here, and he's an architect. He's a Man U fan. He's the guy who did, if people have seen the proposal of how you can use the space at St James's to create 70,000 by turning the pitch through 90 degrees. That was John Henry who did that after a conversation we had, oh gosh, a number of years ago. And he knocked that up in about 48 hours with clever ways to get around all the planning permissions and the difficulties of the leases end. And a lot of the ideas he took from the way they had to develop their ground and some of the challenges they faced in making Old Trafford up to 75,000, including things like the pitch of the stand, the angle that the seats come up from the ground to the roof. And one thing that he proposed to do to get 78,000 into St James's was not only turn everything through 90 degrees, but change the pitch of the stands that like they got at Old Trafford. But he said, and this is where it links in with what was said about the place literally bouncing when we scored, it brings engineering challenges in terms of how it handles people celebrating raucously, and you've got to build in tolerances to allow what he described as a tiny wee bit of sway. Well, I can tell you from being in that stand in the middle tier, looking up, watching the roof go back and forth by what seemed like about 3 meters, it didn't feel like a tiny wee bit of sway to me. I tell you that. But yeah, it's. I tell you something else to learn from this as a fan base, as we could learn. We know when we've been talking about takeovers, and I know we're trying to avoid it on this show, but Man U have had a global fan base for years, absolutely years, and people go there for a weekend trip as part of a holiday, and if they're not immersed in football culture, they don't necessarily know when they should sing, how they should sing, and all of that. And that's where this library atmosphere gets chucked at them from, is they must have sections of that crowd who genuinely don't necessarily know what to do all the time, who spend their time these days probably filming it all. And that's the kind of thing we would have to learn to tolerate in a similar situation. And it fascinates me to see how we as a fan base would adapt to that. And you can see how, you know, the one benefit for them they have had is that they've at least kept their ground in the same place. They've at least kept their ground at Old Trafford. It's still Old Trafford. They've managed to get around all of the problems and challenges they had. And you've got to respect them for that, because it probably would have been so much easier and, at the time, a hell of a lot cheaper to find a brownfield site in Manchester and go, now we're just going to build a new one there. And in some respect, I think you've got to have a bit of respect for the club for trying to keep their home ground and keep that heritage. Yeah, it's not perfect. It's lopsided, just like St James's Park is, because there's development challenges. There's access issues these days into one end of the ground, I gather, because of the crazy little one-way system that goes around and underneath the stands. How they would cope, for example, once they let fans back into grounds, with given Steve shared with me some of his proposals for Newcastle, and it was like 3D chess. It was like, oh, but you kind of put somebody there because somebody's got to go there, and then somebody might want to go to the toilet there, and you know but you've got to take your hat off to them for making the changes at their ground to keep them at home. And there's not that many clubs these days are prepared to do that. It is much easier, and in some cases cheaper these days, to go, no, brownfield site, we want a brand new 24/7 bespoke design, or we want a 24/7 design that comes out of a flat pack. So at least there is some character there because it's history. Yeah, like when we talk about Arsenal, comparing the Emirates to Highbury, it's that palpable history that's there, and I think that's something you do have to respect.
Just picking up what Mitch is saying there, if I remember rightly, when they were developing the Milburn stand, half the costs were turning it out of a building site on the Thursday, so it got a fire safety certificate on the Friday, and then have to make it back to a building site. So that increased the cost by a massive amount.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. My memories before we move on to you, Steve. I've got some great ones. I mean, obviously you cannot miss it. George mentioned it briefly. 5-0, of course. That game, which was an absolute beauty at St James's Park, when Newcastle had obviously been embarrassed in the Charity Shield, and then gained their revenge in front of a TV crowd at St James's Park, and pick a goal, any goal, but Albert's probably one of the greatest I've ever seen at St James's Park, because of who it was against, because it was the last goal of the game, and it was absolutely superb. A lot of people obviously remember.
Absolutely glorious.
It was. A lot of people remember this, of course. Of course, they taunt us about Alan Shearer, and they taunt Alan Shearer on a regular basis, even though he hung up his boots years ago. But we always taunt the Man United fans about this moment when Roy Keane needed David Beckham, of all people, to pull him back from Alan Shearer. So, yeah, happy memories galore from there. I suppose as well, it would be remiss to not mention some of the more recent games and goals. Cabaye has got quite a good record against Manchester United, both at St James's Park and, of course, at Old Trafford. That yellow strip, great, apart from the actual sponsor. And Matty Longstaff, of course, banging a goal at St James's Park, and if I remember rightly, a goal at Old Trafford as well. And another striker who did well in recent times under the Mike Ashley regime, Demba Ba, of course, in that goal. And but my favourite goal might surprise a few people. It wasn't Philip Albert's goal. It was this one, and it was Duncan Ferguson's goal. And that was an absolute belter. He didn't score many big Duncan for Newcastle. My type of player, definitely. And that was one hell of a goal. But lots of memories from me. I will also mention it because it has been mentioned in the chat. 1989, FA Cup, Newcastle United 2, Manchester United 3. Mark Robbins getting the goal. My match of the day debut when I put a moustache on it and was interviewed by Gerald Sinstadt outside the back of the Old West Stand. And he asked us who I was, and I said I was Mickey Quinn's brother. I'll have to dig that clip out and stick it on. But me and Mickey Quinn often laugh about that, but that was my TV debut, yeah. And I did actually have hair there, so I will dig it out and stick it on the show one night so everybody can have a laugh. Steve, your views of Old Trafford before we get on to the celebrity fans and then naming your 11.
I had the pleasure of sitting in the Stretford end once. Lad I worked with was George mentioned something earlier that rings a bell. The lad was a Man United fan, and he was in the Irish Supporters Club of the Manchester United fans, and they had an allocation of tickets every game, and they went round in like a raffle type thing or a lottery, and it was his turn, and he managed to get a ticket for the Newcastle game, and here he couldn't go, and he's worked the same office as me, and he said, "Does anyone want a ticket?" And I said, "Oh, I'll take it." So I took the ticket. Found out it was in the Stretford end. That didn't bother us. It was the day that we got beat 1-0. I went down thinking we were going to beat them. Andy Cole was injured or ill, didn't turn up. I think we had to play Steve Watson up front. We got beat 1-0, and I sat in amongst a bunch of the most miserable Manchester United fans you've ever known, who spent the entire game calling every name under the sun to Ryan Giggs and demanding that he got taken off and replaced by Keith Gillespie. And this went on the entire game. And eventually Gillespie came on. And if I remember rightly, Gillespie crossed the ball and created one of the goals. In fact, I think they might have beaten with 2-0 in the end with a late goal. But I just remember this bunch of Irishmen just constantly going on and on, shouting for Gillespie, but absolutely ripping up and ripping apart Ryan Giggs. This must have been, it was just before Andy Cole left, so it must have been round about the November. What was that be? 94, yeah. I think he went in the. Did he go in the January 95, and then we got Les in. So that summed up for me. That summed up Man United's fans. They were always wanting something better. You know, they had Ryan Giggs, but they thought that somebody who was like should come in and replace him. And you think about their careers since it kind of like, you know, you kind of go, well, yeah, you knew a lot about football, didn't you? You knew an awful lot about football. You would rather have had Keith Gillespie. And no disrespect to Keith, who I think is a smashing kid. I've met him many times and he's always been a gentleman. But no disrespect. We're talking about Ryan Giggs, who ended up being the most honoured Manchester United player. A hero to the whole lot of them, and he played more games than anyone else and took Sir Bobby Charlton's records absolutely wiped the floor with them, in terms of cups and appearances and everything, But that's Man United for you. That's Man United fans. They're not an out, man, Steve.
We'll sometimes get people on who support the other team. We've got an Arsenal fan on tonight. We will be covering Arsenal on one of these games, so subscribe to the channel, and we will be doing that at some point, I'm sure.
We have done, Steve.
Oh, we have. Yeah, you're right. It's because my aim was to do this alphabetically, and of course, we started alphabetically. Now we're all going all over the shop. So yes, get on the playlist, search the Retro Show, and you'll find out exactly what we think about Arsenal.
You should have done the Geordie alphabet. It should have been an N and an E and a WC.
UC.
Very good idea. Very good idea. Right, we've got about 12 minutes left, so let's do the celebrity fans first. And as always, I'll stick one in to try and to fool you. So you never know when that one's coming. Here's the first one. Fairly easy.
Go. Ollie Murs.
Ollie Murs. Yeah.
Ollie Murs.
Good stuff. Okay.
That's golfer.
Yeah. McIlroy.
Rory McIlroy. Yeah. Rory McIlroy. Another die in the
next to me
in the wool red.
Yeah, die in the wool Irish red. He was probably sitting next to me in the Stretford end, slagging off Ryan King. Oh, you see
him bolt.
Tried to get a contract on more than one occasion at Manchester United. It could be the Man United equivalent of Wayne Faraday. Quickest man on the pitch who kind of kick a football.
Leave the back door open.
The reason they left the gates at St James's, keep him in.
This next one has been holding back the years.
Oh, Mick Hucknall.
Yeah,
he doesn't look like he's been holding back the years there, like.
Mick Hucknall, yeah. Okay, next one.
Ooh.
It must be related to Ryan Giggs in some way. I must know him.
Well, it's not Danny Burr. There was a lovely song about his song about it.
Oh, George. Is that Jordan?
It's not. No, that's one guess. I'll let the rest of you have another look at that one.
Nah. Show me age, yeah, like nah.
And that wasn't the one I was hoping they were trickier. That is Megan Fox.
All right.
Oh, now we see it. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So that's one to me.
Justin Timberlake.
Justin Timberlake, yes.
That famous Mancunian.
and this was me trick one.
Well, that's Thingy Styles, is it?
Hey, well done, lads. Yeah. One that I didn't expect to get you with did. So there we go. Well done, lads. I'm keeping up my proud record of tripping you up at least once. So we'll see what happens next week. Okay, it's time to look at the players who played for both teams now. And this was a bit of a struggle in one position, I felt. Goalkeepers. So I am going to go. I'm going to go with this player first. Anybody know who that is?
Oh,
that's not Norman Tapkin, is it?
Well done, lad. You've done your research, mate. You've done your research. Norman Tapkin played for Newcastle United and for Manchester United in the 30s. It's a friend of Marjorie's dad.
Norman.
He's a Wall's End lad. He's a Wall's End lad. Yeah.
A friend of mine. Well, there we go. And you
Albert Stubbins is another one that was with him as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Good stuff. Okay, so there's Norman Tapkin. Who's this?
Pedro.
Never played for them, but he was with them, wasn't he?
He was there. Yeah.
No, he did make an appearance in the League Cup.
Didn't
play league games.
I did select him, Steve, as a potential goalkeeper after his West Ham game. So just in case the lads were struggling, here's another man who played for both teams. The guy on the
left. He was signed for us. I'm not sure he played for her.
Yep, correct. Michael Owen, of course.
He wasn't very good for them either, was he?
That's
Louis Saha.
Louis Saha. Always disappointed he didn't stay longer, me. He was a cracking little player. Little player.
The goal against
Yeah.
Blackburn, the one to remember. It wasn't a cup match against Blackburn.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Okay, next one on the right.
Gillespie.
Gillespie. Would love to know what he's saying there.
Nicky Butt.
Nicky Butt.
Nicky Butt.
He had an
Nicky Butt.
interesting career with us, didn't he?
He did.
Remember, he had that, obviously, the semi-final where he got paid off and was their player. And then when he went to Birmingham, when he come back, he was booed on in a friendly and then scored 2 goals and went up as man of the match in about 10 minutes. Can you remember that at the beginning of the season?
Yeah.
Never looked back after that, but his first 2
He was
seasons.
good. I played, can he? Overton.
Gabriel Obertan.
Gabriel Obertan, of course.
Andy Cole.
Yeah.
Andy Cole, not doing what people do these days, and he's celebrating after scoring against Newcastle.
Alan Smith.
Alan Smith, of course.
Danny
Danny
Simpson.
Simpson.
Danny Simpson, of course, part of the youth setup at Manchester United.
Giuseppe Rossi.
Yeah.
Giuseppe Rossi.
Yeah.
And last one,
That's
Ronnie Johnson.
Yeah, Ronnie Johnson.
one of Graham Souness's signings at Newcastle United. So that's it. That's my bit of research over, and we're now looking at you guys for picking a team. Who's up for going first? Steve, are you confident on your?
Neil wants to.
Neil wants to go on the Mitch. Over to you,
Right.
mate.
Been a little bit inventive, but I've got Norman Tapkin in goal. Like I say, Wall's End lad. And pre-war, but he also apparently represented Newcastle, Sunderland, and Darlington during the war.
Very
in
good.
the wartime leagues. Then I went with a back three of Danny Simpson, Ronnie Johnson, and I've slipped Alan Smith into the back three because that's what he seemed to do as he got older. He just disappeared back and back and back. So many of these players that we share with them are either players that just didn't quite get a chance there and we picked them up and they've gone on to something, or we got them at the tail end of their career and they haven't been everything that we hoped they would be. Then a midfield for Gillespie, Butt, Liam O'Brien, and Albert Scanlon on the left.
Scanlon, good one, mate.
And
good one.
Then a front three of Beardsley, Saha, and Cole. And then the only managerial connection I could find was Steve McLaren, even though he didn't manage Man United, he was head coach there.
Yeah, I don't think there's another connection, Mitch. I did scour the internet and the books for that, but there was no other connection.
Yeah. So that's my 11 manager.
Good attacking options in this team. That it has to be said. Steve Hasty.
Yeah.
Are you doing it, or do you want a bit more time?
No, I've got it. I'll get my specs on. Hang on, read out what I said. I went for a back three. I went for a back three of Simpson, Johnson, and Obertan. Right.
Oh my God, I forgot Davy Mack. Jeez.
Yeah, I'd quite agree with you on that one. I went for a midfield of Beardsley, Davy Mack, Alan Smith, and Keith Gillespie. I went for up front, Louis Saha, Andy Cole, and Wyn Davies.
Yeah.
And up in goal, I went for someone who, a young lad who ended up as a junior at Newcastle and getting thrown out, and then ended up playing at Man United. And I went for Wollaston because I couldn't think of anyone. To be honest.
Very good, very good. Steve Wilkinson, over to you, mate.
Well, I think of all the names that have come out, the only one that you could probably put in there that I would put in as a striker because he scored goals for us was Alan Gowland. So I think I would put him in up front. The rest is you've got the same as you've had. I wouldn't put Obertan on. He always went in a straight line and couldn't cross the ball. If I remember, it was his fault. He was pretty fast. He would have won the powder hole that George was on about earlier on, but that was the only going straight lines. So I wouldn't pick him. But midfield, McCreary, yes, was great. I can't put Michael Owen for reasons if we don't like him. And so up front, I would put Louis Saha, Alan Gowland, and let's put Keith Gillespie putting crosses in for him, just like he did with Tino.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Good stuff, Steve. Excellent. A couple of suggestions in for teams. I'll read them out at the end. And Kirk points out that Tom Curry, of course, was a coach at Man United, played for Newcastle United, died at Munich, born in South Shields. Yeah, and I know Bob Curry, who's still alive, used to go to the gym with Bob. He used to tell us a few stories about him. So good evening to you, Bob, if you're watching. George, your team, please.
Well, I've got to cheat because I couldn't find a goalkeeper, I must say. So it's got to be Norman Tapkin when it was then.
Yeah.
Simpson and a fullback called Lang from the 1930s. Butt, Martin, Smith, Gillespie, Creary, Cole, Wyn Davies and Albert Scanlon. And the manager I chose for personal reasons was Charlie Minton, simply because, yes, he played for Manchester and he was our manager, and he happened to be the manager when I was involved with Newcastle. And actually, I could write the book about Charlie Minton, but never mind, that's another matter. But
you could probably write a book about what my granddad threatened to do to mine.
Great stuff as always, guys. Always good to look back, and that was a really good one. Any preference for next week? Should we look? I don't know. Should we look at another London club, perhaps?
Should we go for the other Manchester club then?
Manchester City.
Yeah.
Aye.
Right. We'll do Manchester City next week then. Okay, that's great stuff. Manchester City next week. And Steve Wilkinson, if you're up for it, if you fancy coming on, we don't mind having an extra body on if you want to come on next week.
Right. Yeah, I'll come on again, yes.
With you and Stu, I think it would be great. Yeah, been a big asset, mate. And if you enjoyed it and you want to come back, that would be great. Yeah. Fantastic. Great stuff. It's nice to have somebody from the 1960, 70 era as well. So it's just that extra angle for us. I'm sure everybody enjoyed your insight.
Steve, you probably noticed that I haven't been bothered by Poppy tonight, the dog.
Where is the dog?
Well, on a Wednesday night, Darren that lives next door takes Poppy for a walk.
Right.
So if we did it on a Wednesday, you wouldn't have to be bothered with Poppy.
I'll have a word with these two boys and see whether they'll move to a Thursday. I'm back with them tomorrow night. Super Mac and John Gibson live at 6 o'clock, 6 till 7. Looking ahead to the game against Chelsea. I've also done a pre-record for this weekend, as I sometimes do to have a night off. Something a bit different. I've interviewed John Altman, Nick Cotton and EastEnders. Nice. Good friend of mine. So that'll be on Sunday. Something a little bit different, just about acting. And he's also promoting his new album, which has been released at the end of the month. So keep an eye out for that. And also give a quick mention to Zara and James. Well done on We Are the Geordies. Getting that out. Film kicks off 11th of December 2020. And that'll be, more information will come out about that. And don't forget to support our Phone a Friend campaign. Call a family member or a friend that you haven't spoken to for a while. Do one a day if you can. It's something which the ex-players have supported, and we'll play out with the video. So for tonight, it's good night from me, good night from Mitch, Steve Hasty, George, and Steve Wilkinson. Good night, lads.
Good night, everybody. Lovely to see you all.
Take care.
Mick Quinn here, and with another lockdown looming, you can understand why people are feeling down, a little bit depressed. Newcastle United fans, I'm backing Phone a Friend. So if you feel that way, pick up the phone, ring a mate, ring a family member, tell them how you feel. Get it off your chest and you'll feel a lot better. I'm backing Phone a Friend.
I'm backing Phone a Friend.
Hello everyone, I'm Stephen Caldwell and I'm backing Phone a Friend.
What we've all got to do is stick together, family and friends. So if you're feeling a little bit low, a little bit not positive about the outcome of the day that's coming up, just pick up the phone, call one of your friends or family. Little 5-10 minute chat makes you feel that bit more positive. Share your thoughts with the person you're speaking to, but stay as positive you can. We're going to come out of this and we'll come out of the better. So Lee Clark, Newcastle United, I'm back in Phone a Friend. All the very best.
I'm back. Phone a Friend.
Hi everyone, Rob Lee here. There we have it, another lockdown looming for all of us. It can be strange times, people can be very isolated, people feel very depressed. That's why I'm back in Phone a Friend.
Liam O'Brien here. I'm backing Phone a Friend.
I'm backing Phone a Friend.
Please remember, these are very, very tough times for us all. And if you're not feeling well, you're not feeling confident, you're not feeling good, just phone a friend.
I'm backing Phone a Friend.
Good morning, this is Warren Barton. I just want to wish you a good day, enjoy your day. I know it's a difficult time for everybody at the moment. If you are feeling isolated, feeling alone, just reach out for someone. You're not on your own, whether it be a work colleague, a family member, next door neighbour, maybe even the guy in the paper shop. Just reach out to them. You're not alone. We know we want to try and support our team and concentrate on something else, but at this difficult time, just reach out for someone. There's someone there to support you, and I wish you all the best. Take care.
I'm backing Phone a Friend.